Do you ever feel like your life is a series of blackouts? No, I'm not talking about your wild Friday nights, I'm talking about load shedding. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth is load shedding? Well, think of it as a game of musical chairs, but instead of chairs, we're talking about electricity. When the music stops, someone is left in the dark. Quite literally, I'm afraid. It's like when you're at a grand party, the music's playing, everyone's having a jolly good time, and suddenly the host pulls the plug. The music stops, the lights go out, and you're left standing there, holding your cocktail in the pitch black. That, my friends, is load shedding. Or picture this. You're about to score the winning goal in your favorite video game. You're on the edge of your seat, your heart is racing, and poof! The screen goes black. No, it's not a cruel joke from the universe, it's load shedding. But it's not all doom and gloom. Load shedding is not some sort of cosmic punishment, nor is it a conspiracy to ruin your day. It's a necessary measure, a way to balance the scales, if you will. When there's too much demand and not enough supply, the power grid needs a little breather. It's like when you've eaten too much at Christmas dinner and you need to unbutton your trousers. It's not ideal, but it's necessary. And it's not as random as it seems. There's a schedule, a method to the madness. It's like the world's most frustrating timetable, where instead of classes, you have periods of darkness. So, to sum up, load shedding is like a game of musical chairs, a surprise party in the dark, a paused video game, a necessary breather, and a frustrating timetable. It's a complex, multifaceted beast, but it's not some sort of diet plan for your electric appliances. So now that we've got a handle on what it is, let's delve into why it happens. Now, why does load shedding happen? Is it because the electricity has a bedtime, or perhaps it's a bit shy? Well, not quite. Although those explanations would certainly add a bit of charm to the situation. The truth is a tad more complicated. Imagine, if you will, that electricity is like a pie. A delicious, sizzling, electrifying pie. Now, this pie can only feed so many people before it runs out, right? This is where we encounter the first issue. The demand for electricity, or the number of people wanting a slice of that pie, often exceeds what's available. Now, suppose the chef who bakes this pie, our power plants, aren't at their best. Perhaps they're feeling a bit under the weather, or maybe they're just getting a bit old and tired. This is another problem we face. Our power plants, much like an overworked chef, need regular maintenance, and sometimes they need to take a break. And when they do, there's less of that delicious electricity pie to go around. Lastly, let's not forget about the ingredients needed to bake our pie. Coal, gas and water are all essential in the electricity recipe. But what happens when there's a shortage of these ingredients? Well, you guessed it. The size of our pie shrinks again. Combine all these factors together, and you've got yourself a classic case of load shedding. It's a bit like a game of musical chairs, only instead of chairs, it's electricity, and when the music stops, not everyone gets a seat. But wait, you might ask, can't we just bake more pies? Well, yes and no. Creating more power plants or importing electricity is a solution, but it's not as simple as snapping our fingers and making it happen. It's a bit like baking a pie from scratch. It takes time, resources, and a whole lot of effort. So, it's not that the electricity is playing hide and seek with us, it's just that there's not enough to go around. Like when you have to share your last piece of chocolate. Now, who decides who gets power and who doesn't? Is it a lottery? Or do they have a dartboard with a map of South Africa on it? Well, if you've ever felt like you're playing a game of chance with your electricity, you're not far off. The load shedding schedule operates a bit like a game of bingo. But instead of a friendly old lady calling out numbers, it's the power company deciding when your lights go out. Here's how it works. The country is divided into numerous blocks, each with its own unique number. These blocks are then shuffled into a load shedding schedule. It's a bit like a deck of cards, with each card representing a different time slot. Now, imagine a giant hand reaches into that deck and pulls out a card. The block number on that card is the unlucky winner of the load shedding lottery. That block gets to bask in the glow of candlelight while their neighbours might still be enjoying their favourite television show. And just like a game of bingo, there's no way to predict which block will be called next. It's all down to the luck of the draw, or in this case the lack of power draw. But don't think you can cheat the system. The power company has a keen eye on the grid. And if they see an area using more power than they should, well, they might just reshuffle the deck. And remember, each stage of load shedding means more blocks are drawn from the deck. So if the power company announces a stage 4 load shedding, that's like calling out 4 numbers in one go. Not great odds if you're hoping to keep the lights on. So next time the lights go out, you can imagine yourself as a contestant on the most bizarre game show ever. The prize? A few more precious hours of electricity. So getting power during load shedding is like winning the lottery, just less exciting and more electrifying. But don't despair, it's not all doom and gloom, or should I say boom and gloom. The darkness may seem overwhelming, but like a determined sunrise, solutions are breaking through. In the face of load shedding, the people of South Africa have been nothing short of resourceful. From the backyard mechanic to the corporate magnate, the nation is inventing new ways to keep the lights on. Solar power, wind energy, even wave power. The richness of the South African landscape gives us a multitude of renewable options. We're not just talking about a handful of solar panels on rooftops. Major projects are underway. For example, the Northern Cape Solar Park, aiming to generate enough electricity to power a small city. Imagine that, a city powered by nothing but the African sun. And let's not forget about the ingenuity of individuals. Entrepreneurs are developing products that are not only energy efficient, but are also designed to work during load shedding. How about a kettle that uses half the electricity of a traditional one? Or a fridge that stays cold for hours without power? Yes, these exist. The government isn't sitting idly by either. They're investing in infrastructure, exploring new partnerships, and implementing policies to encourage renewable energy. They're also addressing the issues that led to load shedding in the first place. It's a long road, but steps are being taken. And here's the cherry on top. Even as we speak, international experts and local geniuses are collaborating, sharing ideas and building solutions. The world is watching, and they're not just spectators. They're lending a hand, bringing in fresh perspectives and resources. So while load shedding may seem like an insurmountable hurdle, remember that every problem brings with it the seeds of its own solution. The darkness has sparked a revolution in how we think about and use energy. It's an exciting time. And you know what they say about necessity being the mother of invention? Well, in South Africa, necessity might just be the mother of illumination. So there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not just someone with a torch. But until then, how do we survive the darkness? Do we need to start learning Morse code with candles? Well, not quite, my friends. There are indeed ways to navigate this blackout maze without resorting to semaphore signals. One of the most effective ways to combat load shedding is by harnessing the power of the sun. Yes, you heard me right. Solar panels are no longer just a fancy accessory for your roof, but a genuine lifeline in these power-starved times. With the sun being a rather reliable companion in our country, solar power can be a game-changer. It's like having a mini power plant right in your backyard. And the best part? It's free after the initial investment. Now let's talk about the kitchen. No electricity often means no hot meals, unless you're one of the wise ones who've invested in a gas stove. It's like having a little piece of the old world right there in your kitchen, allowing you to whip up a hot meal even when the rest of the neighborhood is dining by candlelight. Backup generators are another fantastic tool in the load-shedding survival kit. Yes, they can be a bit noisy, and yes, they need fuel to run. But when the lights go out and your generator jumps into action, it'll feel like you've got your very own superhero right there in your garage. Let's not forget about the simpler things too. A good book, a board game, or even a long walk can be delightful ways to pass the time when the screens go dark. After all, we didn't always have electricity, and our ancestors found plenty of ways to entertain themselves. So, while we wait for the light to return, we can at least make sure we're not left in the dark. With a bit of preparation and a dash of ingenuity, we can turn the tables on load shedding and keep our lives shining bright. But hey, it's not all bad. There's a bright side to load shedding too. No, really. Now, I know you're probably rolling your eyes so hard they're about to fall out, but bear with me here. There are indeed some silver linings to this seemingly unending power outage saga. The first one is reduced energy consumption. Load shedding, in its own way, forces us to cut back on our electricity usage. It's like Mother Nature's way of saying, "All right, folks, time to hit the off switch for a bit." This not only helps in reducing our carbon footprint, but also makes us more conscious about our energy usage. And speaking of consciousness, load shedding also brings about an increased awareness of energy efficiency. It's like a crash course in energy conservation. You start to think twice about leaving that light on in the other room or keeping the fridge door open for too long. You learn to appreciate every watt of power you consume and find ways to make it last longer. It's a bit like being on a diet, but for electricity. Now onto the really fun part. Load shedding gives us a chance to unplug and relax. In this digital age, we're constantly bombarded with information, always connected, always on the go. But when the power goes off, it's like the world slows down a bit. Suddenly you find yourself with time to read that book you've been putting off, play a board game with your family, or simply sit back and enjoy the quiet. It's a forced digital detox, if you will. So, you see, load shedding isn't all doom and gloom. Sure, it's inconvenient and can be a real pain in the neck, but it also brings about some unexpected benefits. It's a lesson in adaptability, a test of resilience, and a reminder to slow down and appreciate the simple things in life. So load shedding isn't just about sitting in the dark, it's a chance to see the stars. And if all else fails, we can always laugh about it, right? Because what's life without a bit of humor? We've all had those moments, haven't we? The power goes out, you're halfway through cooking dinner, and you can't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. In fact, some of the best stories come from these unexpected blackouts. Take, for instance, the tale of the bachelor who had a date over for a candlelit dinner. Little did his date know, the romantic ambience was courtesy of a load-shedding schedule, not his Casanova tendencies. Or consider the joke of the family who, when the lights went out, decided to play a game of hide-and-seek. The youngest member of the family was so good at hiding that when the power came back on, they found him fast asleep in the laundry hamper. Then there's the story of the couple who decided to make the most of a blackout by stargazing in their backyard. They were enjoying the clear view of the Milky Way when suddenly their neighbour's generator kicked in and lit up the yard like a football stadium. And who can forget the classic load-shedding joke? Why don't South Africans play hide-and-seek? Because good luck hiding when the power's out. These stories and jokes, while born out of inconvenience, have a certain charm to them, don't they? They remind us that even in the darkest of times we can find a spark of joy. We can choose to view load shedding not as a nuisance but as an opportunity to bond with our loved ones, to appreciate the simple things in life and to exercise our creativity. So, the next time the lights go out, remember to laugh, not because it's easy, but because it's a choice to embrace the absurdity, to find the silver lining, and to create light in the darkness. Because laughter, my friends, is a power that no load shedding can take away. So, what have we learned from our journey through the dark? We've discovered the power of darkness quite literally, and the culprit behind the scenes causing all this load shedding. We've taken part in the load-shedding lottery and seen that there is indeed a light at the end of the tunnel. We've learned how to survive the darkness and even found the bright side of load-shedding. Yes, you heard that right, there is a bright side. And of course we've discovered the power of humour to get us through it all. In the face of load-shedding, we've become blackout warriors, armed with candles, flashlights and a strong sense of humour. We've learned to appreciate the simple pleasures of life, like the flicker of candlelight or the joy of a charged phone. And remember, the next time you're in a blackout, it's not the end of the world, it's just load shedding.